Reality shows like Yukon Gold highlight a new gold rush in this vast Canadian territory. But the search for gold and other minerals has opened up old wounds about land rights between the Canadian government and the native Canadians, called the First Nations people. At stake is the future of the Peel Watershed, a huge piece of untouched land bordering the Arctic Circle that's home to caribou, moose, and bears. It's the size of Ireland, and the government wants large portions of it open for mining. No roads cut into the 26,000 square miles of forests, mountains, and rivers. One of the few ways to get there is by a 5-day trek on horseback, or by a not-so-eco-friendly route, a chopper. Eileen Peter and Jerry Lee Bike, two leaders from the First Nations, agreed to show us their ancestral land.
So we're just coming up on the hot springs in a minute.
The views from the air were stunning. The patches of ice, a chilling reminder of our warming planet.
All of that is full of ice completely, and that's all that is remaining is what you can see over there. The tiny patch of ice.
The First Nations people and conservationists want none of it developed.
Why is this land so important to protect to you?
Because it's untouched from when our ancestors used to walk along here, and as stewards of the land, as we've been told ever since we were little, we must protect it.
After 7 years, a land planning commission came up with a proposal that was supported by conservationists and reluctantly the First Nations people. Their plan opened up 20% of the land for mining and save 80% for conservation.
These two girls are working to protect it.
But the government had another plan. Open up 70% of the land for mining and 30% will be for conservation.
They basically went and did the complete opposite of what we asked.
You actually drink this water just like that, it won't get sick. Cold, clean, pure water. Much better than the bottled water we buy in our cities. You think it's deep? Yeah.
Water, for the First Nations people, is the lifeblood of their land. But the government sees mining as the lifeblood of the Yukon's economy. That's the big challenge here. Mining interests and conservation interests. One of the arguments the First Nation people give, aside from being a sacred land, is the water. I mean, for them the water is all that matters. Once the gold is gone and the water is polluted and contaminated, what's going to happen with the water? They cannot drink the gold. We headed to the city of Whitehorse, the capital of the Yukon, to find out why the government rejected the original plan.
Our territory's economy is based pretty much on mining. It's our biggest industry.
Corey Dixon is the Minister of Economic Development for the Yukon. He pushed for the government plan and said opening 70% of the wilderness would bring jobs.
It's the reason Yukon was created as a territory over 100 years ago with the Klondike Gold Rush.
Minister Dixon says the government could reject or modify the Commission's plan.
I'm forced to ask you this. So how is that democratic? I mean, if you open a recommendation to the people and they come up with a recommendation and you guys decide to do completely the opposite, how is that a democratic process?
The Land Use Planning Commission was not democratically elected. It was appointed a body to come up with recommendations for the elected government to make decisions about.
So we decided to speak with someone in the Yukon government who would surely support saving the vast majority of the wilderness, the Minister of the Environment.
As the Minister of the Environment, wouldn't be a mission or a plan to keep some of the land in Yukon, like that specific area, as just leave it as it is, as an untouched area, no upping for it?
It turns out the 28-year-old Corey Dixon is also the Minister of the Environment.
It's a unique place that has seen development, though. You cannot say that there has not been development there. There's over 8,000 existing claims today.
There has been a bit of staking and a bit of exploration. But the point is that none of those were ever developed commercially because it was just not financially viable.
To keep the majority of the watershed pristine, the First Nations and conservationists took the government to court, They say the government's plan violated land treaties with the First Nations. And just this month, the Canadian courts struck down the Yukon government's plan. Only 20% of the Peel Watershed will be open to mining. But even that is too much for many First Nations people.
The government is saying that they can actually exploit this land without having a major environmental impact. Do you think that can be done?
No, not at all.
No.
Why not?
How is that possible? Once you disturb any part of this with a road and
Allow access for all sorts of development, it's tainted forever.
Conservationists like Louis Rifkind fear that the roads and mines will leave the Peel Watershed looking like this. The Faro mine, once one of the biggest lead zinc mines in the world, it is now one of the biggest environmental disasters in Canada.
It's costing us millions to clean up, and it's going to take 400 or 500 years to clean up, and that's a cost to taxpayers.
This is just beautiful. I mean, how many times you've been in a completely untouched place by humans? Wow.
Back at the Peel Watershed, Jerry Lee and Eileen hope their ancestral lands will remain intact.
you really don't realize how much you need simple things like clean water until it's gone, right?
Yeah.
There's certain areas you just need to leave alone, and I think this is definitely one of them.